If you want to organize your digital life, you've come to the right place.
Do you really need the user manual for your microwave oven you purchased in 1992?
No, because I got rid of it about 10 years ago. What about all those bank statements and tax returns?
Insurance brochures or outdated catalogs. They're just taking up valuable space. We don't need them.
I think we all have a tendency to hang on to documents that we no longer need.
And if we do need them, we don't necessarily have to have hard copies.
No, get rid of all those files. We're going to show you how to digitize and finally go paperless.
Know exactly where to store your important files so you can quickly access them on your phone or your laptop.
So get ready to take all of those old files to the dump because we're going to declutter and digitize.
In the last episode, we showed you how easy it is to start your paperless journey by scanning receipts. Now it's time to organize your documents.
You've already purchased a scanner or downloaded a scanner app. Now it's just a question of doing what you already know how to do.
I will say, if you have a lot of documents to scan, a desktop scanner is going to be faster, but you can still do it on your phone. It may just take a bit longer.
Once you have all of your documents digitized, the next step will be to determine a file structure that will help you easily find where all of your documents are.
That's my problem. I have good intentions. I think I've come up with a unique file structure, but then I quickly forget what it is and become disorganized.
What I found is just have two major folders. One would be a permanent folder and one would be annual files.
That is where I end up going wrong. I create too many main level folders and too many file folder subfolders within that are too specific. It quickly becomes really disorganized.
Yeah, I think it's important to not have too many main folders and to have a good subfolder structure so that it doesn't get too deep and too hard to navigate. So let's start with the permanent folder. This is the primary folder for documents that you don't need very often.
Birth certificates, marriage certificates, social security cards.
Permanent items, things that don't really change as you go through life.
And so the annual file would be for the documents that change year after year.
And pertain only to that particular year and nothing else.
I like it.
But the permanent folder is not just about those permanent documents. It could also be about family recipes you want to save or pass down. It could be funeral wishes, things that you know from year to year to year need to be in that location because you always want access. So the question is, when is it permanent? When is it annual? There are a lot of things that are annual. Utility bills, any kind of bills that you are paying monthly, all of those can go in an annual
Car
file.
repairs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I will also say, if the car repair is something you will need to prove when you're selling the car, make a copy of it and put it in the permanent file with automobiles.
Just duplicate it, have it in that annual file as well as the permanent file.
And I sometimes will put tax returns with the annual file because all of the backup for that tax return is going to be right there.
Right.
But the return itself may be something I want to keep for perpetuity, so I will make a copy of that file, put it in the permanent file under tax returns, so I just have all of my historical tax returns.
That's a good way to think about it. When you want something for perpetuity, permanent file. We're going to provide you with a free link of a filing structure we think will be really beneficial to you and begin your paperless journey. Check the description below.
And if you think you're getting value from this, please tell your friends about us, like and subscribe. It helps us a lot.
Now let's take a look at a sample filing structure for the permanent folder.
Academic records. You may or may not want to keep your academic records, but if you do, the best place for those would be the permanent file.
Things for posterity.
There may also be some archived files that you want to keep. Let's say you had a big party back in 2016, invited a lot of people, had all of the email addresses or physical addresses. You keep those safely stored, and if you want to have another party later, you can go back to this as a reference list. So if it's things that you think you may use in the future, the permanent file is a great location for that.
Assets. Now, of course, this is the subfolder where all your monetary assets will live. car, boat titles, information and warranties on computers or other valuable equipment, everything pertaining to any house you own, investments, software, or other assets you may own.
Any other asset that you want to track will have its own folder. That way, all the documents are kept very safely with that particular title.
And you know right where to look for it when you need it. Another important subfolder would be called At My Death. Include notes about burial plots or cemeteries, a list of people you would like to be notified when you die, your favorite hymns, scripture, or other funeral wishes you may have.
An emergency file is also another file that would be helpful to have on hand. Include your blood type, a list of allergies, emergency contacts, medical conditions, or maybe even a roadside assistance number to call.
And remember, when you create this file structure on your computer or on a note-taking app, you have it on your phone. It's right with you. Should you have an emergency on the side of the road, you know exactly where to look for the information you need. Identification. Keep every document that proves you are who you say you are right in this subfolder. Things like birth certificates, driver's licenses, marriage licenses, passports, social security cards, and voter registration.
Think about creating a file for each member of your family. If you are caring for aging parents, make sure to include that in your list of family members. Next, legal documents. Any document that requires an attorney, signatures, a notary, all of those types of documents can go in this file. Beneficiaries, health proxies, powers of attorney, trusts, and wills. And if you're caring for aging parents, this is a good place to put those documents for them.
And media. You may want to include this subfolder for your important types of media. Audiobooks, books, music, photos, and videos. For instance, I'm kind of an audiobook fanatic. I have a spreadsheet that lists every audiobook that I own, and I am constantly adding new titles to the list. So where will this spreadsheet live? In the permanent file, because I want it for posterity. I want to know maybe in 10 years what my audiobooks are. So permanent file.
You could also include your most treasured photos here. Set up a separate folder for those, maybe even put them by year. However, if you have a lot of photos like I do, you may want to look into getting a photo app that will help you organize those a little bit more clearly.
I've used Power Photos, and I can recommend that. But there are other programs like Exire, or for a free option, Faststone Image. But if you really want to get serious about organizing and digitizing all your photos, you'll need to check out a series of videos that we created called Digitizing Photo Albums. We'll link it below.
The last thing you may want to put in your permanent folder would be any treasured documents, maybe some old letters, notes, cards, or family recipes. Anything that's really special to you that you want to keep forever.
One thing that is important to remember about the permanent file, that is a file that you probably want to duplicate and put those hard copies in a fireproof box of some sort. You may already have something like that on hand. In that case, all you have to do is take those files and scan them and add them to your permanent file.
So you may be asking yourself, why would I want to have a scanned copy and something in the firebox? Let's assume that there's been no fire and you do still have all of your original documents. Well, in my family, there are 4 children. You can't give that one special document to all 4 kids, but a copy of the letters or copies of the first few pages of a family Bible, those
or recipes.
Those things are wonderful to hand down.
Yeah.
And all children would have access to the information that's in all of those documents.
I love to get recipes, and it's good when they're typed so we can read them. But there's nothing better than a handwritten recipe from a loved one. And all you have to do is scan those handwritten recipes and pass those down, and that is a treasure. So of course, it goes in the permanent file.
Absolutely. Your second primary folder will be annual files. If you're going to start this for 2025, then that will be your first annual file subfolder. You'll add a new folder for each new year that follows.
Keep a template in your annual file called Master Template. That way you won't have to recreate the file structure each year. You can just always draw it from that blank template. Add the new year.
For each year, include subfolders for cars, finance, health, home, personal, and pet files.
The Cars folder should include documentation for every vehicle you own, including maintenance and repair records, tag and license information, and other records like receipts for tires.
The finance folder should include any finance-related items such as banking, investments, all in one place for that particular year. Now, you may ask, why would I download my bank statements? I can get to those online if I go into my bank app. You can, but only for a certain amount of time. After that time has expired, you will have to pay the bank to print those copies for you later if you have to do research or you have an audit. I always recommend that you download your statement every single month.
And how long do you recommend keeping tax returns and bank files and things like that?
I would say for as long as an audit period will exist, either for state taxes, federal taxes, or for any kind of possible property tax or ad valorem tax that you're having to pay. Just keep those documents for as long as you have an audit exposure.
I've always heard hang on to everything for 7 years.
I think that's a pretty good rule. The IRS does have, if you go out to their website, you can actually type in, hey, how long should I keep certain documents? And they will give you some recommended times.
Oh, good to know.
I always keep my tax returns, always, even though I have heard that when the audit period is over, you don't need the tax returns. But sometimes you need those tax returns if you run into any Social Security issues and you need to go back and prove that certain things were filed, or if they have missed putting some of your earned income on your history for Social Security. And I have run into things like that, either with clients or friends. So make sure that you at least keep the master documents for those things.
Do you recommend keeping the hard copies of those tax returns, or are the scans okay, as long as you've got a scanned copy? Because that, we're trying to get rid of the paper.
I really think it depends. If you have a very simple tax return, I would say, yeah, just keep the scanned copy. If you have a pretty big, complicated tax return that has a lot of special attachments, maybe some original documents that were sent from outside sources, such as 1099s and W-2s, things like that, I might be inclined to keep some of those. But I am very risk averse, and I'd rather have it than not.
Yeah.
And I would probably keep a scanned and a hard copy for some of those more complicated returns.
Also include any inheritance documents, insurance files, or promissory notes you may have in your finance folder.
Have a subfolder for health, which includes all of the members of your family. And if you do care for aging parents, make sure you include them in that list as well.
Include information about your annual physical.
For your dental records and for your doctors, including contact information and which hospitals they are associated with.
Medical conditions you may have, records of surgeries or other procedures. I'm getting to the age where when I get to that part of the check-in form and they say list your surgeries, I was like, I'm gonna need some extended time and a longer piece of paper.
The same is true for my list of medication. And the good thing about having digital access means when you're asked for the information, you can simply copy and paste from your phone.
Don't forget about vaccine records. Remember during COVID when we had to show our vaccination card before we could enter the doctor's office or a nursing home? It was really important that you had that official document on hand.
Moving on to the home file. That's probably one of my biggest files.
Me too.
But remember, you can always download PDFs of all of your appliances and tools.
Don't even think about keeping hard copies of that big, fat user manual. You don't need it. You can access it online, or if you really want to keep it, scan it and put it in the folder.
In my home file, I have subfolders for air filter sizes, appliances, furniture, HOA information, and landscaping.
Files for home maintenance or remodeling, for smart home technology, phones, internet, and a folder for all of your utilities.
I also have a personal folder that contains information about hobbies, makeup, projects, clothing, and shoe sizes for all of the family, and information about vacations or travel I may be planning.
If you have pets, you'll want to include a pet folder also.
And if you're not retired, maybe you want to keep a professional folder. In that folder, I would keep performance reviews, professional development, vacation and sick days, licenses and certifications, and other resources you may need to keep on hand.
If you want to eliminate the clutter in your life, it is essential that you digitize your important documents.
And it's important to have a good, solid file structure so that when you want to get to one of your documents, it's easy to do.
So commit, toss out the paper, and create a stress-free environment.
And if you're on a digitizing roll, stay tuned for our next episode on digitizing your calendar. You will not want to miss it.